Hey folks, Malforian here, and today we're going to take a look at the latest dev diary for Millennia, which is going to cover domains and culture, two of the pillar systems in the game, and a little bit of a spoiler, domains sounds awesome, and that is going to be one of the first things they talk about here. This really allows you to specialize your nation in really interesting ways. If you explore a lot, you kind of focus your realm on exploring. If you do war, you can kind of specialize your realm into a warfare-like realm and things like that, which is such a cool system. I'm sure it's been in other 4X games. You'll have to let me know in the comments down below, but it is one of these things, similar to the Ages, that I really think allows this game to kind of stand out from other games in the same genre. But we're just going to get straight into it today, and as they say here, we're going to be covering domains first. And if you have been following Millennia at all, you'll know the theme of the design of the game is player authorship, so basically allowing players to not play the game in any way they want to, but to really think like, oh, I'm going to play as France this time, and I can kind of specialize France in such a cool way versus something like Civilization, where if you play as France, you got to kind of play it the same way due to how the bonuses work and things like that. And that is something they're really trying to differentiate this game from something like Civilization, where you can play as the same nation, but you can have entirely different campaigns depending on how you work through these different systems they have. As they say here, they've got predefined nations with fixed bonuses in Millennia, as I just said, similar to Civilization. They do give you little bonuses kind of based on that nation kind of loosely, but instead of that being the main focus, they wanted to steer the systems towards giving players tools to define their nation over the course of the game. Designs that let you decide how to grow your nation in response to the direction history takes. So, you might be planning, oh, I'm going to be a warfare version of France, but instead, nope, you kind of swerve over and become a cultural France or something like that instead, kind of reacting to how the game plays out and what you discover and things like that. So domains is one of these systems. The 6 domains are government, exploration, warfare, engineering, diplomacy, and the arts. At the start, in the Age of Stone, the government domain is active across all nations. That's the starting one. The remaining domains become active for a nation as soon as they encounter them. For example, if you run into some barbarians and you get into a fight, you will open up the warfare domain. If you build a lookout tower, you will gain exploration domain. When you enter a tribal camp, you might find something that provides engineering and so on. So basically, when you encounter these systems for the first time, I would imagine diplomacy when you meet the first other civilization, arts maybe when you, I don't know, maybe find a wonder or something that would like inspire your art or something like that. So basically, when you encounter them for the first time, that's when you unlock them. Each domain provides your nation with domain powers, tools that allow you to take actions involving that domain. The range involved is broad. The warfare domain, for example, includes domain powers that represent preparedness, stored materials, leadership training, and the martial spirit. So I think it allows you to like spawn armies or spawn, like materials, as it says, so you can fight longer wars, have your generals be better and things like that. So some cool little bonuses depending on what they are. There are a set of standard domain powers for every domain. For example, every nation gets an exploration domain power that allows them to spawn a scout. Additional powers become available over time. Depending on what ages history moves through, you could end up with different domain powers. Moving into the Age of Monuments will grant unique domain powers that you will not have if you progress into the Age of Kings. As they covered last week, doing these like alternate ages gives you different unlock that you then keep, and kind of the other ones that you missed are kind of locked away from you to again kind of specialize each campaign that you do. Certain national spirits also unlock domain powers, so different timelines with different decisions will allow you to grow a nation to produce different capabilities. So as I said at the beginning, you could have a warfare France or an exploration France, or these different ways you can do it, and they all play out in different ways. But as it says here, some of the bonuses are across everything. So like every nation can spawn a scout with the exploration domain power. That's one of the first ones you get. You obviously just won't unlock the higher bonuses and the higher activations if you don't do much exploring. If you just stay at home, if you do a bit of turtling, if you build tall, you're going to be getting these other domains being more powerful, and something like exploration is not going to be powerful because you're not doing exploration, so why would you be a master at it if you've never done it? Again, I really enjoy how that works. And here we go, the Age of Kings. So it looks like these are the domain bonuses. So there's Spawn a Scout, Spawn a Prospector, whatever that does, and then there's Claim Territory as well. So I guess that's like a culture bomb or something like that. Obviously, we don't know exactly what it is, but it looks like they're the 3 options basically, and they all do different things. Have a scout, spawn a prospector. I guess maybe you can find like coal and iron or something if you unlock that, and then obviously claim territory, as we guessed. It could be like a culture bomb or expand your region or something like that. Who knows? We'll find out, obviously, in the future. Domain powers are fueled by domain XP of their type. Exploration domain power that allows you to spawn a scout costs some exploration XP, obviously. XP is earned in a number of different ways. As mentioned, you will gain some from rewards like tribal camps, but also from actions such as warfare XP from getting into battles. Your capital buildings also supply domain XP. A town centre gives you government XP, a barracks warfare, a marketplace will give you some diplomacy. However, to really invest in a domain, generate substantial amounts of XP, you will generally need to look at improvements and plan some of your economy around the direction you're interested in. If you build mines and furnaces, send ingots to a weaponsmith, the weapons may provide warfare XP, so you can get like a base amount from the base buildings basically, but very much like your actions will give you XP, your buildings and what you're trying to build your economy around will also kind of funnel you into one of these systems. I imagine you could kind of play it like wide and go into all the systems, but you're obviously not going to be able to specialize and get the best unlocks across all of them rather than focusing on one or two of them. Maybe exploration and warfare make a cool mix, or diplomacy and arts, maybe something like that where you can kind of couple two together in some way. I would imagine is possible from how this is set up. The intent of this is to allow nations to take actions that align with their strategy and character. If I've built a lot of market squares and great halls, deployed many envoys, and set up improvements to get trade goods like tea, I will have a lot of diplomacy XP, and that will allow me to use more diplomacy domain powers. My nation will be characterized by its diplomacy actions, more truces, more trade, more alliances. Again, kind of these are your rewards for playing that diplomacy kind of campaign. If instead I want to build a lot of workshops, have my mines and forges supply improvements like toolsmiths, I'll show signs of the national character through the engineering domain powers. I'll likely have more outposts, more improvements, higher level towns. Again, kind of synergizes with what you're doing already, and then it kind of snowballs, I would imagine, where you're getting more XP from having these buildings, so that pushes you even further down that domain, which again is a cool way for it to work. This arrangement helps nations to be more what they do. If a neighbouring nation has been fighting since the start of the game, has barracks in every capital, and has extensive goods chains dedicated to making weapons, I can guess that they aren't likely to be strong in diplomacy or arts. I can expect them to have long experience with war, their investment in trading, and their weapons industry is going to translate into a capable opponent on the battlefield. They will be able to use even more warfare domain powers than a less militant nation. So again, you could go like Mongol style, try just take over the whole map if you are playing that kind of warfare mode. And if you're near them, you're going to be worrying. Maybe you're going to be using that diplomacy to get some allies. Be ready for this warfare nation that's going to go crazy and try to take over as much as they can. Or I would hope that's what it's like as well. I would imagine if the AI does these things, I hope it like upticks their aggressiveness. So if a warfare-like nation happens because an AI spawns near like barbarians, and then they're fighting off these barbarians a lot, I hope it kind of like triggers them to be more and more aggressive and to go more and more down these trees, because that would be awesome if like the things that happen to AI nations forge them into these certain ways. I think that would help make AI nations be more dynamic, I would think, compared to some other 4X games. It'd be interesting to see exactly how it plays out when we actually get to play it. And then next one to domains and national spirits. Obviously the national spirits where you can kind of specialize each nation separately already, and then these domains are kind of on top of that as well. So to touch on a related element briefly, national spirits are also associated with specific domains. Selecting a national spirit provides some income of their domain. Taking an engineering domain national spirit will give you engineering XP each turn. Obviously makes a lot of sense. Additionally, any domain powers unlocked by ideals in a national spirit will have a cost in the same domain, and any unique improvements or capital buildings from a national spirit will often provide ways to earn more of that domain than usual. So again, if you focus on a warfare national spirit, as you can see here, being a crusader or a Khan, that's obviously going to give you more bonuses towards going through that warfare domain as well. And it all just synergizes together in a cool way, I think. You could obviously have a fun game, I guess, where you pick intentionally different ones. So spice merchants, but then try play as warfare. I would imagine you're not going to have a good time, but it could be interesting to do that, kind of mix them up intentionally and see how it plays out. But as you can see here, these are the national spirits in Age 4, such as explorers, crusaders, Khans, machinery, shogunate, spice merchants, chivalry, theologians, and I think there's 2 more as well. And again, obviously, once you reach these national spirits, you can be kind of picking them and helping you further forge your nation in a certain path. that you're wanting to do or that you've been pushed into. Maybe you're not wanting to go down this warfare path, but you've realized, look, I'm going to get defeated if I don't, so we're going to move down this other track and see how well we can do. And then obviously the next part of this dev diary is culture. Culture is a lot of fun. Well, hopefully it is. Mechanically, you can think of culture as a super domain, but thematically, culture is a force behind major events in history. As with other domains, you gain culture from your actions in the game. If you construct a capital building, like a coliseum, set up a good line, like wine, deploy artisans, or control a dominant religion, you will generate more culture. Kind of makes sense. The more culture-y things you're doing, the more culture reward you're going to get. Unlike other domains, there are not domain powers with a variety of costs. You cannot use the powers anytime you can afford them. Instead, the culture you generate fills your culture meter. When you amass enough, you can pick from any of the culture powers available to you. Culture powers are arranged by domains. When you get your first Warfare XP, it opens up the Warfare domain for you and also makes the Warfare domain culture powers available. As with other domains, different culture powers can become available due to the age the game moves into or because you're natural spirits that you have chosen. No matter where they come from, all culture powers are big. They are founding a religion, changing your government, calling a crusade, raising armies, and advancing current research are all examples of culture powers. They did mention that before. You could use it in cool ways. If you find yourself like stuck in a corner, you can use your big culture power to kind of raise an army out of nowhere or call a crusade to kind of try pivot, kind of restore your campaign in some ways. A lot of players will have an idea of how they intend to use their culture powers as they advance through the game, but one of the places where culture powers really shine is when your plans go off the rails, because the culture powers are more impactful than any other domain powers, and because they provide a lot of flexibility, they can serve as powerful wildcards, things that can get you out of a jam that you didn't expect to be in. As we just talked about, these are really things where you can be up against the wall, you just mash that button and you spawn an army or you found a religion, and that really helps you kind of turn the corner and, recover slightly. And as you can see here, there's a bunch of culture powers. Create a town, have local reforms, raise an army, cutting edge, whatever that does. It looks like it's some kind of engineering tech. Truce, which would be cool if you're in a war, and maybe you can use this to just force a truce on somebody, which would be awesome. Propaganda and found a religion. Again, using this to found a religion, I would imagine be pretty powerful. And then the arrangements used for the culture system is intended to model cultural movements, things that might be seen as zeitgeist or something about the mood of a nation at a specific point in history, instead of a direct product of more tangible industry. Think of the historical events, the increase in raiding in the Germanic Iron Age, or the period of rapid technological advance sparked by the invention of the printing press. So these are really like huge historical events in your nation, rather than the domain powers that are kind of that path you're choosing, and they help you a lot, but they are very much like in a certain path or something, whereas these are really like, wow, we founded a religion, we forced a truce on somebody, we raised a crazy army and fought back the horde or something like that. So these are really going to be crazy powers that are really going to define your campaign, I would imagine. So as such, a difference between how culture works and the other domains operate is that culture has a connection to the size of your nation. Smaller nations with fewer people and less distance between them have an easier time maintaining cohesion. Larger nations with more people and greater distances to cover need more to stick together. They require an amount of culture to offset their size. Hence, if your nation has more regions, you'll be spending more of your culture you generate just keeping them together, and you'll likely get culture powers less often. Instead, if you pursue a more tall strategy and have a smaller number of more developed regions, you'll likely get culture powers more frequently. So again, a cool trade-off. Do you want to be using your culture to just keep your realm together? Look, I'm playing wide. I'm just going to try expand as much as I can. I'm going to forego being able to found a religion, maybe using these powerful armies that I can raise, but I'm going to have a larger realm, and that's going to help me in that way. Or do I want to play tall, have just a limited amount of regions, and I get to hit those culture powers more frequently? So maybe I don't have the ability to build a lot of armies just in general, but I can hit that culture power more often and just spawn these armies out of kind of, well, I guess like thin air. I guess it is a bit weird. It'd be interesting to see exactly how gamified it is. It might be a little bit weird if you just spawn armies, but I guess like it's not too weird if you think of, at the moment, Napoleon, obviously with the movie being out, is in a lot of places. I guess if you think about him, like France had a lot of troops, but Napoleon was able to build up these massive armies out of nowhere almost because he was so, you know, charismatic of a leader that a lot of French people wanted to fight for him. Maybe they didn't, maybe, you know, maybe some of them were forced to fight for him, obviously, but I think it kind of works that way, especially the Ray's army. Maybe it's more of like, you know, every so often there's such a charismatic thing happens that like you press it, you get an army. It seems a bit weird that an army would appear out of nowhere, but I imagine if you wanted to think about it that way, maybe you just had a super charismatic leader that came along and he was able to, you know, unite everyone, and they kind of came up, joined the army, and then you went to, you know, expanding and things like that. So again, a cool way of seeing it. Obviously, in the game itself, it might kind of work more in a realistic manner without being able to see how it plays. Obviously, we don't know. I mean, every one of these 4X games has weird systems that aren't historically correct or something like that. But anyway, that is it for the Dev Diary this week. As I say, that's 2 of the key systems covered, and next time they're going to be covering another system. But they do say at the end here, we hope you have enjoyed this overview, and we hope you look forward to the time soon when you get to try them out for yourselves. So I kind of thought the game was some way off, but I wonder if we're getting like a demo soon. Maybe the next Steam Next Fest or something, we might get a playable version of the game for a short amount of time. That would be awesome, because we have seen already through the Dev Diaries a lot of these systems. They're not like complicated, but they work so differently from other games. It's going to be good to actually get our hands on it, I think, and actually play the game and see how they play out versus other games and things like that. Do they make sense as interlocking systems and all that cool stuff? But anyway, we'll find out soon enough. Hopefully soon we do get news on maybe a demo or early access or something like that. It'd be awesome to get our hands on the game. As always, if you've enjoyed the video today, hit that like button, subscribe if you're new here. I play historical strategy games. I cover Dev Diaries, news, live streams. We do discussion videos, all that cool stuff on the channel. But we'll leave it there for today, and I'll see you in the next one.